Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast. Today we are diving deep into really one of the most critical choices any software company has to make. It's all about your go-to-market model, your GTM.
Right.
Are you going to let the product do the talking, that's product-led growth or PLG, or are you going to lead with the sales team? You know, the classic sales-led growth or SLG.
And this isn't just some, interesting theory anymore. This is a foundational commercial decision. I mean, your GTM model dictates basically everything.
Everything. Like what?
Well, your product features, engineering priorities, who you hire, how you even forecast revenue. And what's really fascinating, and the source material we're looking at highlights this right away, is the scale of the shift.
Okay.
Nearly 60% of the SaaS companies surveyed are now running some form of a PLG motion. It's fast becoming the default.
Wow, 60%. That really tells you something about how software buying has changed. But I think the real question we want to answer for you, the listener, is how do you decide?
Yeah.
How do you know if PLG is the right fit or if your product actually needs that, that rigor of an SLG model?
Well, the answer really lies in some very specific signals. Things like the complexity of your product, the size of your average contract value, your ACV, and frankly, the psychology of the buyer.
Okay, so it's not one size fits all.
Not at all. The best GTM strategy is just the one that removes friction and gets your specific customer to value faster.
So our mission in this deep dive is to unpack the mechanics of both PLG and SLG, look at the trade-offs, cost, retention, and then most importantly, give you a practical framework to guide that decision. Let's start with the basics.
Let's do it. It all starts with how customers in your category actually prefer to buy things.
That feels like the most obvious, but also the most overlooked step.
It is. If you force a complex sales process on someone who just wants to swipe a credit card, you've lost them before they even start. You have to mirror their expectations.
Okay, so let's unpack PLG first. The engine of acquisition, as they say. This model basically means the product is doing all the heavy lifting right there.
All of it. Acquisition, activation, retention, even expansion. This all happens, often long before a salesperson ever gets involved.
And the core idea is just lowering friction.
Lowering friction to get to that first moment of value. And you see this with robust freemium tiers or maybe short but fully functional free trials. The user essentially qualifies themselves.
By just using the product.
By using it and solving an initial problem.
Yeah. So that self-serve process is absolutely make or break. You need to get the user to that aha moment. And the source material really emphasizes this need for proactive onboarding.
It's not passive. It's about contextual tips, in-app prompts, checklists.
Yeah.
Anything that guides the user to solve a real problem right away.
Because speed is everything.
Speed is critical. It's not just, here, try it. It's about actively mapping out that entire journey and aligning your whole company product, engineering, marketing to just shrink that time to value, your TTV.
And when users find value fast, they stick around and they tell other people.
They become your growth channel, your organic growth channel.
And you can see this working so well in the wild. I mean, think about Airtable. Their templates aren't just a feature, they're the whole viral mechanism. Someone finds a template, they build something, and they immediately invite their team. That's growth without a single sales call. Zapier is another one.
Classic example.
Super intuitive, a great free plan, and they use all that in-app data to just constantly make the product better and smoother.
Okay, so let's flip it. Let's talk about the other side of the coin. Sales-led growth, SLG. This is for when things get complicated.
That's expensive.
And expensive, yeah. When the risk is high, you need a human. You need a consultative process. Here, the sales team runs the entire show, from qualification all the way to negotiation.
So it's inherently a high-touch, costly model. Why would you do that?
Well, it shines with enterprise accounts. We're talking high ACV, bespoke needs, and a buying process that's just messy.
Multiple stakeholders.
Multiple stakeholders. Security reviews that take months. Legal negotiations, custom integrations. You absolutely need a person to guide the buyer through all of that.
So instead of a user qualifying themselves with a free trial, a sales rep is qualifying them through this really deep consultative discovery process.
That's it. Look at a company like Salesforce. You don't just, sign up for an enterprise-grade CRM with a credit card. It doesn't happen.
Right.
They excel because they build these highly specific demos and solution designs that prove the ROI for these huge, complex rollouts. ServiceNow is another great example.
So that clarifies the mechanics. But let's dig into the strategic differences, because where that first touch point happens seems to dictate, well, everything else.
It absolutely does. The whole thing comes down to the buyer's first experience. Is it self-serve discovery, or is it a human-led demo?
Okay.
In PLG, the buyer explores on their own terms. That lowers the friction inside their company, and it shortens that time to value.
Yeah.
But in SLG, the sales team is orchestrating a very careful demo to prove ROI, which is critical when you have 5 different VPs who need to sign off.
And what about the unit economics? The trade-offs there seem huge. PLG has this reputation for a much lower customer acquisition cost, a lower CAC, and viral growth. So isn't a high CAC SLG model just less efficient?
That's the tension. You're right.
Yeah.
SLG does have a higher SAC, and the sales cycles are much, much longer. We're talking 9, maybe 18 months.
Oof.
But that cost is offset by way bigger contracts, larger ACVs, and, this is the key part, much stickier customer relationships.
So they stay longer.
Much longer. When a sales team invests that much time embedding a solution deep into a customer's organization, that contract is way more entrenched. That leads to better retention and a much higher lifetime value, or LTV.
Okay, this is where it gets really useful for someone listening who's trying to decide. What are the actual signals, the framework that tells you which path to take?
The source material gives us 3 critical deciders you have to be really honest about. First up is product complexity and UX friction.
Okay.
If your product needs a heavy setup or deep integrations with some legacy system, or IT has to approve it before anyone can even touch it,
Self-serve is dead on arrival.
it's completely blocked. That's a huge signal that you need an SOG motion. But on the other hand, if a user can get value with just a credit card and the UI is intuitive, that's a great fit for PLG.
Makes sense. What's number 2?
The second is your target audience and their buying process. You have to know who holds the wallet.
Right.
SMBs, small teams, they love instant access and low prices. They, frankly, hate talking to sales. Enterprise customers, though, let's say over 100 employees, they expect guidance. They require custom contracts and that kind of stakeholder alignment that only a sales team can provide.
And the third signal is just the price tag, right?
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Pricing and ACV.
Yeah.
If your average contract value is high, say over $20,000, it almost never fits a self-serve checkout. You need a human for the negotiation, for compliance. It has to happen.
So really the goal is to just ruthlessly measure those friction points?
That's it. How many steps until procurement gets involved? How long until IT gets that phone call? Those are the real-world barriers that should define your strategy, not just what's trendy.
So it sounds like a pure model, either PLG or SLG, is really just a starting point. Most successful companies, as they mature, they end up blending them. They create a hybrid model.
They absolutely do. The transition usually happens when a company either hits a self-serve ceiling and can't grow anymore, or they get flooded with all these tiny leads that they just can't afford to service with expensive sales reps. It's pragmatic.
So let's take a PLG company. When is the right time to start layering sales on top of that?
It's when you start moving up market, when you see demand from bigger accounts. Maybe users are signing up and immediately asking for a demo. Or you look at your data and see teams of like 20 people all on separate accounts.
So they're trying to consolidate.
They're showing you product-qualified demand that needs a human to close a bigger enterprise deal.
Okay, what about the other way? A traditional sales-led company. When do they bring in PLG?
That happens when you see end-user demand just surging. You know, employees at your big clients are using your product on their own, on a small scale. Or your marketing funnel is just flooded with low ACV leads. You have to build a self-serve option to capture that volume efficiently.
Without hiring 100 new reps.
Exactly. That's capital efficiency.
But moving to a hybrid model, that sounds like a recipe for internal conflict. Sales and product fighting over who owns the customer. How do you make that work?
Yeah, that's where the wheels can come off.
Yeah.
But the source material gives us a pretty clear playbook. You have to structure your teams by segment.
Meaning?
You need a dedicated growth team that is focused only on the self-serve, low ACV segment. Then you have your SDRs and AEs for the mid-market and a specialized enterprise sales team. You create clear lanes.
And the incentives have to match. That feels crucial.
It's everything. If a sales rep can only hit their quota chasing huge enterprise deals, they're going to ignore all the smaller self-serve leads, even if those leads are really hot.
So you have to adjust the quotas.
You have to. Quotas must credit the channel that created the lead. We often see companies mandate that, say, 15 to 20% of a sales quota has to come from product-driven revenue. That forces the teams to work together.
Which brings us to, I think, maybe the most powerful idea in this whole framework. The different types of leads. We all know MQLs and SQLs. But the real game changer here is the product qualified lead, the PQL.
The PQL is the gold standard. It really is. Because it's defined by what a user does in the product, not just by them filling out a form.
So it's behavioral.
It's all behavioral. We're
Yeah.
talking about them hitting an API call limit or maxing out their storage or inviting their whole team to the workspace. It's an action that screams, I need more.
And the conversion lift is supposedly huge, something like 3 to 5 times higher than a typical MQL. Why is the gap that big?
Because an MQL is just expressing interest. They're still thinking about the problem.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
PQL has already solved a problem. They've integrated your product into their workflow. They've proven it works for them.
So they're not asking, does this work?
No, they're asking, how do I get this for my entire company? They just need a human to help with pricing or a security form or an enterprise integration. They're ready to buy.
So tracking and instrumentation, that becomes everything. You need metrics that tell you the truth about which motion is actually working.
You have to track your funnels independently. You need separate dashboards for product metrics and for sales metrics, side by side.
So you can see things like activation rates, PQL velocity.
Demo requests, win rates by channel, all of it. And you have to obsess over time to value, TTV. A shorter TTV always leads to stronger net revenue retention, NRR, over time. It just compounds.
And on the economic side, you're constantly watching TAC payback and lifetime value, but segmented by channel.
Rigorously. That's the only way you know where to deploy capital. Is the high volume, low CAC, self-serve motion actually profitable in the long run? Or are those expensive enterprise deals the ones creating the real sticky revenue base?
It's a continuous optimization loop then.
Always. You might find that even with a high CAC, the NRR from your SLG customers is so good that they pay back their acquisition cost faster than your PLG users. Only the data can tell you that.
So after this whole deep dive, it's clear there's no single winner. The best model is just the one that removes the most friction for your specific users. Slack basically wrote the book on PLG, but Salesforce proves that sales first can still dominate the enterprise.
Exactly. The takeaway for you, the learner, is that it's all about rigorous execution. It doesn't matter which model you choose if you don't execute well. A flawless freemium onboarding flow or a perfectly tailored demo. The details are what separate theory from results.
So let's make this really concrete. What are the next steps for someone listening to this? It seems like we have 3 main takeaways.
I'd say so. First, do that honest assessment of your product's complexity and its UI friction. Be objective. Can someone get value with a credit card? Or do they hit a wall? Let that define your boundary.
Okay, step 1 is honest assessment. What's 2?
Second, define your PQLs, your product qualified leads. Use your actual data to find the user behaviors that truly predict an intent to buy. That's your engine for efficient growth.
And third?
And third, segment your GTM motions clearly, and then build those shared, transparent reporting dashboards. That forces product and sales to cooperate, and it shows leadership exactly where to invest for the highest ROI.
That really brings us to the end of a very packed deep dive. This choice really does dictate how efficiently a company can scale.
It really does. And maybe a final thought to take with you. How would your current operations, your product roadmap, your team structure, how would it all change if you strictly organized everything around that PQL versus sales-led revenue split? Getting that alignment right, that's the ultimate measure of success.
Thank you for tuning into the SmartKeys podcast. We encourage you to subscribe for more insights on the future of work and strategy. The link to the full strategic analysis we discussed today is available in the show notes. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.